Welcome to another pre-modern Pox League. I'm back with another list of Pit Rack Pox. We did really well last week, so I wanted to kind of perfect it, and I had some ideas, so this is the new version. The basic thing I'm excited about is the fourth copy of Funeral Charm. Funeral Charm, I think, overperformed last time, and I just thought maybe 4 is the right place to be. It's great to have another 1-mana discard spell, though obviously quite different than Duress. But overall, the card just has a lot of utility. It's creature removal when you need it, and when it's not relevant as creature removal, it basically cycles, but in a way that's good for this deck because a lot of times you're just trying to get over the finish line with the rack, and your opponent is just trying to make sure they always have 3 cards in their hand, so you can't. And Funeral Charm is perfect. Also, it's like a time walk when you're in top deck modes, which is all the time with this deck. So I wanted to try 4 Funeral Charm. I went back to 2 Furnace to make room for it. Otherwise, the main list is fairly unchanged. It's basically a Pit Rack deck. I like the Furnace in this metagame for all the herd and AKs and a lot of little graveyard stuff like that. It really adds up, and if it doesn't, it cycles in a more usual way. Last week we tried Volrath's Stronghold instead of the third Wasteland, but I'm back to Wasteland. Otherwise, pretty basic deck. I want to give Skittering Scourge another try. I still think it's very efficient in a deck like this, and you just need more ways than the rack to push damage. So great to be able to just play that in turn 2 and make your opponent deal with it. I moved the third Furnace over to the sideboard. I'm running 2 Crypts, I have some extra graveyard hate. Sideboard's still a bit of a work in progress, and one thing I do want to do long term is make a real sideboard map for this deck to make sure I've got the right number of cards for the right number of matchups. I did go up to the third Smother. It might even be correct to play a fourth. The card is just too good versus Phyrexian Dreadnought, and it's fairly good versus the rest of the format too. I think it's a fine place to be. You want some kind of plague, something that helps you versus go wide decks. So I chose 2 Engineered Plague and 2 Plague Spitters. I think Plague Spitter is pretty good. Obviously, it's more easily removable typically, but you can also bring it in versus decks where you just need more creatures or you just need more of a board presence. So it's not only go wide removal. And Dystopia is Dystopia. It might be correct to play a fourth Dystopia. To be honest, I own only 3 on MTGO, and I only own 3 in paper, so I just kind of stuck with 3. But the card's really good. The spoiler's in the title. It's another 5-0 video. I really wasn't expecting that. Last week, I played a league, and then I recorded a league and went like 3-2. And I thought I was going to upload that, but I had a little extra time, so I recorded one more, and I happened to get a 5-0. So that's why last week's league was 5-0. This week, I had very little time, so I only recorded 1 league, and it was a 5-0. Deck's good. I don't know what else to say. That's 2 5-0s back-to-back, actually, with this deck. Don't expect it every week. I'm not trying purposefully to get 5-0s. Obviously I'm trying to win, but you get what you get. But so far, gotten pretty good with this deck. Otherwise, I just want to say I'm going to stick to once a week Friday schedule. If you like it, subscribe. I'll try to keep the same consistent timetable. I can't do any more than once a week. So once a week, Friday night Pox. Let's get to the matches. We won the die roll. Great way to start a league. This hand's got I'd rather have 4 spells than 3 lands, but I'd keep a 6-card hand with 3 lands. So we keep this. We have enough discard. Hopefully, we don't need extra creature removal. Or hopefully, we draw it. Let's see what happens. Forest. Well, at least I don't have a turn 1 creature. Well, Forest is good enough to name Sylvan Library. That's a hit. Oh, we got 2 of them. Bingo. What a hit. An opponent has Call the Herd, but we have the Furnace for that, and they have 2 Wastelands and 2 other cards they can't cast. So Not a bad start. We'll have to save the Funeral Charm for the Wayfarer. And I just go for the Bottomless Pit here. I thought about casting Cabal Therapy for Call of the Herd, because then it would take them 4 mana to cast it, and we could grab it with the Furnace before that came up. But we just get the pit down, and then we actually discard the Call of Herd randomly. They draw a Sylvan Library, kind of annoying, but Sylvan Library is not that good. I don't know. From the other side of the table, I have just not been impressed with it. And they only have 3 cards in their hand, so they're all going to be gone. And Sylvan Library lets you look a little deeper, but it's not card advantage unless you have a way to shuffle, then it's okay. But otherwise, you have to pay 4 life per card. And I don't know. I've seen opponents lose lots of games like that. I'm trying to think if there's any way that I can let them. When do I use these Funeral Charms is the question. Do I let them draw the extra cards first? I decided it doesn't matter too much. I can let them put 2 cards back, and then they'll obviously keep a land and this Terravore, and then I can Funeral Charm them. That's my plan. But they do keep a card, which complicates it a little bit. But again, they have 3 cards, and 2 of them, one of them is definitely Terravore, and it seems likely that there's a land with which to cast the Terravore. So, if they discard 2 cards, then they can't do that. They can either keep the land or they can keep the Terravore. And of course, if they keep the Terravore, they'll just discard it on their next upkeep, the Bottomless Pit. So they kind of have to keep the land here. They discard a Plains, which is their only white source, and they discard the Terravore, as predicted. But what is surprising is they don't have the forest or the green source. So what card did they pay 4 life for that they want to keep in their hand? Well, I draw the best thing I can draw, and I kind of have to play it. But the card they keep is kind of obvious. It's an instant they can play, Naturalize. So unfortunately, they get to naturalize the Rack. But of course, I would have discarded it to the pit. So there's no playing around that. You just kind of have to hope they messed up or something. But anyways, they're on 0 cards in hand, and we have a pit in play, and they don't really have their mana. They only have 1 of their colors, so not that bad. And eventually we can cash in this Furnace, although they are a Call of the Herd Terravore deck, so I kind of want to keep it around as long as I can. What if they top deck Call of the Herd? That would be awful. They find a Port, which is, it's alright for them. Now we can't play our 3 drops. And we draw Innocent Blood. This is kind of a play pattern where we just have to hope, if they draw a creature, we just happen to draw a removal spell that it lines up well. This one didn't, because if they have a creature now, it's too late. So just a dead draw. We're going to have to discard to our own pit. We're looking for Scroll Rack, a Curse Scroll, or the Rack, or another creature. Just, anything we can play, really. But because there's no pressure, I'm not going to sacrifice this Furnace until there's pressure or some other advantage. Yeah, again, drawing the Pox when we can't cast it, not great. And they found their white source too, so now, I don't know, they've got more options, I guess. Here, they keep a card in their hand. I don't bother addressing it, just if it's an instant, then they can play it. If it's not, then they can't. Doesn't matter. Keep my mana open, let them think maybe it's a smother or something, so maybe they'll do something stupid. I don't know. I activated Furnace last turn on myself because now I can activate it again on myself and get the Swamp out of my graveyard for future Terravores. Again, they kept a card in their hand, so play my Rats. Now I got a creature on board, but it just happened to be a removal spell, so it lined up well for them this time around. Oh well, just a 1/1. But, eventually they're going to draw something they can play, and it's going to be a problem, so I just have to draw something I can play first. They're not keeping any extra cards, though. They're playing the patient game, too. But this is why, I don't think Sylvan Library is that great, because, it's not it drew them 1 card for 4 life. Otherwise, they're just getting all the cards that they were going to get anyways. They've had no shuffle effects. We draw Factory. I mean, obviously, they've got Port and 2 Wastelands, so not great. And sure, they Wasteland it. And again, they're keeping a card in their hand, so they're not finding lands on top or spells they can cast. So I don't know what they have, except it's another Naturalize. I had F6 there, so I didn't crack at the draw card. Yep, definitely a slight misplay. And here they keep a card again, so now they have a land, and they finally found the shuffle effect. That'll be good for them, maybe. And they found the Terravore. And I've got the blood in my hand, but it's the wrong order. And I draw a Curse Scroll that would have been good 10 turns ago. Now, it's looking a little bit too late. Well, hang on a sec. This Terravore is a 2/2, but they have Wasteland. And Nimble Mongoose, also difficult to deal with. Oh, sorry, it's a 3/3. I can't read. So now they got 2 3/3s, and I finally draw the 4th land. Next turn, I can activate Scroll, but that's not going to win me the game. We take the hit, go to 12, draw Swamp. Not great. Look at all those innocent bloods in our graveyard. Oh, what a shame. And Pox. Oh, I want a Pox. And they found an Armageddon. So I scoop it up. Alright, well, I was kind of bad-mouthing Sylvan Library there, but that does... that was a good showcase of the power of Sylvan Library. I had no pressure. They drew 2 extra cards. They found a fetch land in the middle. It worked for them, for sure. Here I want to bring in the Smothers, and I like the Furnace, just for Call of the Herd. And because I'm bringing in Plague Spitters, I'm siding out my Skittering Scourge, because you maybe just have too many creatures that run into each other. And while they do have Weathered Wayfarer, there's not too many little creatures for Funeral Charm, so I identified this as a matchup where I can take out Funeral Charm. I'm not sideboarding. I changed my sideboard next game because I'm not bringing in Dystopia here, and I think that's just a mistake. But anyways, we're going to play game 2 like this. Not a bad hand for game 2. We certainly have a good mix of discard, removal. Opponent mulligans a 6. We're going to name Swords the Plowshares for this one. I thought about the Sylvan again, but I'm just not convinced it's a pivotal card. If they take turn 2 playing Sylvan, that's fine. What I want to do is play turn 2 Scourge, back it up with Factory, apply a lot of real pressure fast, and hopefully they've got creatures to race me with, and I'll just smother them. That's my plan. Because I drew Ravenous Rats, I mean, they can activate the Weather Wayfarer, but I just want to get some creatures down. I'll play it first because I can't play it after Scourge. They had drawn and discarded Rith's Grove. Okay, now they get to search with the Wayfarer. They find a port, but they don't play it, of course. Play the Mongoose first, but I can still attack into that, so that's fine. Duress, not bad. Can grab that Call of the Herd. And I do choose to do that because at least I can double spell here. I really wish that was a Swamp because I'm pretty sure I'd rather play the Skittering Scourge here, but I do want to use my mana, so I'll just play the Smother. And their hand is 3 lands, so that's fine. They port the Swamp, kind of annoying, because now I can't cast Scourge, unless I top deck a Swamp. I don't, I just top deck Duress. But at least I can attack with the Factory. And because they tap their planes, I know I don't have to play around swords. They found another Wayfarer, but now they have more lands than we do, so I'm not too worried about it. And this time they tap the Factory, so I can play the Scourge. Finally. I was hoping to play that turn 2. Now it's turn 5. But, you know, all good things to those who wait is the mantra of Pox. Here they sacrifice Heath and float a white mana. I think they were trying to activate Wayfarer, but can't do that. So the flashback call the herd. It's fine. I would have liked to have been able to Phyrexian Furnace that, but I do have the smother. And I can smother the herd and still attack with factory here. So there's a lot of damage. Too much damage here for my opponent, so they double block the factory, but that seems really good for me. Like I was pretty happy with that trade. And they're on a 3-turn clock to this Scourge. Terravore, not bad for my opponent, but even now I don't think it's going to be able to race the Scourge. They port my Swamp, draw Pox, which would have been really good. The one card is Secluded Step. That's pretty good for them. Terravore can get rather large, but I can keep it at least a little under control with the Furnace. So I'm going to try to race it, and of course, if I can draw another Swamp, then we're in business with the Pox. Hopefully they don't draw like Armageddon right now. Well, they cycled a step, so Terravore is a 6/6, but they waste their own mind. So Terravore is an 8/8. I go down to 10. Ooh, but I draw the Rack. An opponent forgets to port me. So I'm thinking both of these spells should win me the game. Just, trying to consider what I'm playing around. What if they have swords? If I go to combat, that might port me in combat, so I kind of want to play Pox now if I plan on playing it. And I do decide Pox is the best play, because if they have swords, I want to get this Terravore dead. So play the Pox, and this actually doesn't kill them immediately as well. They only go to 1, but then, they have 1 turn and they have to top deck basically swords. I can't think of anything else they could possibly have. And then, I don't know. I think being at 1 life, even then, they'd be pretty disadvantaged. And this is a good showcase for Skittering Scourge. I think we played it last week, but it didn't really go the distance like this. And this is why I put it in the deck, because a lot of decks, they have no flying blockers, and they are not heavy into removal like this one. And maybe this guy even sided out some swords, because we don't play that many creatures besides rats. So this is exactly the kind of deck you wanted against. So I'm glad that worked out. And for sideboard here, I'm going to grab the Dystopias. I consider siding out the Plague Spitters, but I kind of like these things, and I quite like Pox there, so I want to put another one back in. I just, a single target discard. I can beat this deck on board. I didn't see anything too scary like a Compost there. So I kind of just want all my action cards. And Dystopia can also answer Compost too, so I think it's fine. You don't really need Duress if you're ahead on board. I don't care about Sylvan. Maybe if I'm behind on board and they have an Armageddon, that would be the kind of situation where you want Duress, but I could just be ahead on board. So that's kind of my plan. This hand's great. It's got the Scourge, just like last game. I've got Duress anyways, in case, I can poke at their hand and see what they have, and otherwise, smother. They play only Mox Diamond because they really want to activate this Weathered Wayfarer. So luckily, I draw the Innocent Blood. They have another one, but now I've got Smother online. I think that's what I do here, just because they really seem into Weathered Wayfarer. It's a shame I don't have the 3rd mana for the Plague Spitter, otherwise I'd probably go with that. But it's only turn 2, and there's no guarantee I'll be able to play it next turn, so I think shutting down the Wayfarer is best long term. And here they have the library, but again, I'm not super concerned. I draw the land on time. I could play Dystopia, but honestly, I'd just rather put on pressure. And I don't think they can use the Sylvan effectively if I've got a creature on board. They'll be too pressured to draw extra cards, So I would just rather start attacking than play an early Dystopia. Alright, opponent plays an early Terravore. Only a 2/2. And I've got to think about how I want to deal with this. If I play Dystopia, no matter what, I kind of have to attack first. I could Dystopia, I could Blood, or I could just ignore it and go for the air. They're all pretty reasonable. Opponent is also on 3 cards only. because of the Mox Diamond and the Sylvan Library are both card disadvantaged so far. So the Rack is relevant. Okay, I decide to Duress, and I'm facing 2 Naturalizes and an Armageddon. Kind of disappointing to see all those Naturalizes because they make my Dystopia worse. But the Armageddon, yeah, I have to take Armageddon here because if I don't kill this Terravore in the Armageddon next turn, even if I do kill the Terravore, they'll have a Mox Diamond and a Library, so they can maybe rebuild faster than me. And I've got no lands in my hand, so Armageddon's the obvious choice there. And then I run out the Rack. They have 2 cards in their hand now, and they can naturalize it, but that's going to happen no matter what. So if they spend a turn, take a turn off naturalizing my Rack, that's fine with me. And here, like, they only have 2 naturalizers in hand. They probably want to keep all their cards, but they're already at 11 life. So, like, this is what I mean when I say that Sylvan Library isn't doing too much here. I found a Rith's Grove, which is actually pretty good considering the Rack. They pass with a 3/3 Terravore. So now, I don't know. They're obviously going to block, but I just decided to take the trade. This is a pretty safe trade because the Plague Spitter is going to do 4 damage to it, so even if they have a cycling land, still be okay. And they're at 9 life, so I play the Scourge. And again, they're on a 3-turn clock, and as far as I know, they don't have an answer in their hand. And I'm feeling pretty good about these 2 Dystopias. They still haven't naturalized, but if they tap down, I can get the Sylvan off the table. And then they'll have to burn their naturalize, and I'll have the second Dystopia. That's kind of my plan. So here I decide to stick with the plan, play Dystopia instead of the attack with the factory. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to naturalize it, but I've got another Dystopia and it just gets it out of their hand, so that's fine. I did play the land last turn, which might have been a misplay. I mean, they only have 2 lands, so they could activate Weathered Wayfarer no matter what. But I don't know, just to make sure they can't activate it twice, and I don't need that land in play. So they find a cycling land, so they're just digging. And it does shuffle their library for the Sylvan, so that's why they do it on their upkeep there. Alright, opponent found Terravore. Doesn't answer the Scourge. And they have 1 card in their hand. So playing this Rats, it's pretty tempting. But I go for Dystopia. Alright, yeah, so here, if I hadn't played that land last turn, they wouldn't be able to activate Weather Wayfarer now. So they get their land, a wasteland. They sacrifice Wayfarer. Look at 3 new cards, but they're dead on board, so they got to find something right now. They wasteland the factory, and they do find a Pyroclasm. So they're going to try to stabilize at 3 life here. But I do have the Dystopia, and I do have Ravenous Rats, which could go the distance. Definitely playing for the Dystopia, but I decide to blood here because this Terravore is getting big. I can't take another 6 damage. This way it clears the Sylvan off the board, guaranteed, and so this is kind of a lock. Like, I have enough life here that they can't play a blocker for the Rats. If I just keep the Dystopia for 3 turns, I'll have to pay 2 life, then 3 life, and then I think that's all actually I have to pay. And opponent's at 3 life and 3 minutes. But they can't, like, even if they have a blocker in their hand right now, they can't really play it. So they would need to find 2 blockers, kind of. So I'm definitely paying for this Dystopia. And I draw blood, which could still be relevant if they do answer this Rats. There you go. They go to 2, and I pay 3 life. Ooh, and Factory is a great draw. That's just another thing that can kill them. But there you go. I've got Dystopia in play, and they are at 1, so they gotta play a creature now. If they play a creature, I can keep Dystopia. If they don't play a creature, I guess I won't. I don't really want to go to 2. They could have Lightning Bolt or we saw Fire Ice, so definitely not just gonna go to 2 and, oh my god, throw away the match. That would be terrible. But luckily, they don't even put me in that position. They don't play a creature, so I can for sure sacrifice this Dystopia. Alright, they're at 1. Might as well animate the factory in case they have 1 removal spell. Then I can still win. No reason not to. And they do. They had a swords. Maybe they just found it, but 1 removal's not enough. That's match number 1 versus what do you call it? White Terravore, Armageddon Terravore that splashes red and blue. Bit greedy. Well, on to match 2. Round 2. Can't keep this. No black mana. This one has black mana. It's got spells. We have 2 Duress and 2 Blood, so which one do you want to have 2 of? I choose to have 2 Blood, but immediately my opponent plays Flooded Strand. Well, Pox can be relevant. I don't love to play Duress on turn 1. I think very few decks have powerful turn 2 plays that I need to respect that much. So in this kind of situation, I'd rather just get the Rack down when I know they don't have Counterspell, and I can save Duress for turn 2. Turn 2, I don't Duress either, because we're just kind of playing land go, so now I want to keep my Duress for when I'm going to resolve a spell. This seems like a pretty hard control deck, so I think it's fine just to wait with your Duresses. Found the 3rd land, and I'm just going to wait. When it gets to being about 4 mana, that's when you can start to worry about Fact or Fiction. So, because I have a spell this turn, I'll play the Duress. I have a counterspell. Play the Rats. Rats resolves. Okay, and now it's my Rat with 4 creature removal spells backing it up. Ooh, Bottomless Pit is good. Bottomless Pit is the kind of thing that would turn this game around. Getting it to resolve is the tricky part. That's why I kind of wanted to wait with that Duress. Here I play Pox as bait. I think this is a must counter. They have more lands than me and more cards in hand. So I can't see them not countering this. But they don't have a counterspell, or they don't care because they're playing Fact or Fiction. Well, I'm still trying to keep them off that counterspell. So how to make piles where they don't choose the counterspell. I'm worried about Decree long term, but I put at least what I think are the 2 best spells together. And I didn't want to put the lands with Decree of Justice, so this way they have to pick lands or spells, kind of. And they pick the lands, which, I don't know their hand, but they have to sacrifice 2 of their lands right now to Pox, so makes sense. And here they swords the Rat, which is very suspicious. I have to sack the Rat anyways to Pox. Maybe they didn't know that, or I don't know, but that was not a good play. Alright, well, the Pox surprisingly resolves. Doesn't really, that's good for us, because the opponent has to discard cards they care about, and we don't, and they have to sack 2 lands, and we only have to sacrifice 1 land. It gets them pretty close to the Rack, and, well, if they didn't have a counterspell for that, and we put one in the bin from Fact or Fiction, then maybe we can get this Bottomless Pit to resolve. We top decked the land, that was the only variable, so we're just going to jam that pit, and it resolves. So this is where you want a control deck to be, for sure. Make sure you stack your triggers right. Opponent discards a land and passes without even playing one. We discard a Blood. Funeral Charm, here it is, and this is a great example of where you want it. The only question is, do I attack with my Factory right now? I decide to pass. I want to make sure, I don't know, what if they have a creature removal in their hand? I'd rather just wait a turn, see if it gets discarded the Bottomless Pit. And we're already winning with the Rack. I don't know. On second thought, though, I think maybe you can just attack, because if they remove it with like swords or something, then it's another card out of their hand for the Rack. Opponent has Decree of Justice. They just get the 1 token. That's fine. And here I'm going to Funeral Charm before they discard at random, because Funeral Charm will guarantee they take their worst card. So this will give Bottomless Pit a better chance on their best card. And that looked kind of pretty, so I just took a screenshot. All right, they discard the Blessing and a Misdirection. They begin the turn with one card in their hand. They play a land, so now they have one card in their hand, and, we have Bottomless Pit. Well, we draw another Rack, which is probably the best thing we could possibly draw. So now they are just super dead. Again, I'm keeping my Factory. I don't know. They kept one card in their hand. Maybe it's a Swords or a Disenchant or something. But again, I think it's kind of a bad play if they do have pretty much anything, like it's not going to help them. The one thing, though, actually, Slice and Dice would have killed the Factory and drawn them a card, so got lucky there. I'm not sure it's the right play, but it's what I did. All right, and that's game one. I didn't see any creatures, so I'm interested in siding out all 4 Innocent Bloods. I'll bring in the Plague Spitters because they're extra damage on board, and they mop up the soldier tokens. And I bring in a Plague for the same reason. I don't have too much else to bring in. I consider Dystopia, but I didn't see any actual white permanents, so don't think so. Great hand to start game number 2. Because I'm not 100% confident in opponent's deck, and it is the sideboard game, so we don't know what they brought in, I'm going to start with the Duress this time, kind of changing the logic from before. But we do find just Counterspell, Fact or Fiction, and 4 lands. Take the Fact or Fiction because Counterspell is only going to be 1 for 1. My hand's full of good cards, look at one of them, I don't care. Fact or Fiction is actually something that will take us down to losing the game. Wasteland, kind of interesting that we can take them off Counterspell, but I just want to double spell instead. I'd rather use one of these artifacts as like a discard spell, basically. And I care less about the Rack. I'd rather the Curse Scroll survive. It's a better, more consistent source of damage late game, I think. But they did counter the right one, and they found Miscalculation, so the counterspell is still in their hand. And we top deck Pox, which is very interesting. We could try to save it for later, but I'm thinking whatever spell we play this turn is likely to get countered. And the Pox is not, it'll get them down to 2 cards, but then they'll draw a card and kind of be right back in it. And we don't really want to discard our cards either. So I'd rather just play the Pox now. I think they're going to go for it and counter it. I mean, they will have to discard 2 cards and sacrifice a land, which is pretty punishing. So kind of putting it out there as bait, and I'm hoping the 2 creatures will get us across the finish line. They play their 4th land. We have enough mana finally to Wasteland here. They have 4 mana for Fact or Fiction, so when they let this go, I know they don't have Fact or Fiction, which is nice. Play out the Plague Spitter. Plague Spitter will be an excellent source of damage if they can't find the swords or whatever. And they're already on 3 cards, so if they do answer it, they'll be in Rack territory. And they just draw go. Now they have 4 cards in their hand, no land drop, but I know they have lands in their hand, so they're obviously just dancing around the Rack. We draw Furnace, which is fine. I think Guy's Blessing is a big part of their deck, so I'm kind of happy to have something that can take a bit of that away. We get in the damage. Scourge is a little risky here in that they can get a 2 for 1 maybe if you put out 2 creatures. Anytime you put out 2 creatures, they can have a 2 for 1. But if you like Fire and Ice the Scourge, it will deal 1 damage when it dies. So it's pretty easy to get 2 for 1 here. But they absorb it instead. And this time they play a land and say go. We draw another Scourge. Sure, why not? We attack and play our Scourge. But here, opponent has a pretty awful 2 for 1 for us. 3 for 1, I guess, because they get to, or maybe I should say 2 for 0, because they draw off the Slice and Dice. Slice and Dice does 1 damage to my Scourge. Then when the Plague Spitter dies, that deals another damage to my Scourge. So we were winning this game, and now we're losing. Because we're losing, I just want to cash this in for a card. I want to keep trying to apply pressure while I still can. We only know about the Dust Bowl, so I'm going to hold on to this therapy for when we can either make sure it hits something or when we're trying to resolve a key spell. There's the Dust Bowl finally. They have 3 cards in their hand, so we're kind of on the cusp of getting something together. They're at 12 life, that's not nothing, but we drew a land. They end of turn Impulse. This is how the game slips away from us for sure. This is the part of the game that the control deck likes. They have Powder Keg for my Rack. It's a pretty good solution because I can't interact with the keg, and they currently have 3 cards in their hand, so they don't even have to blow up the keg right away. So that means if I draw another Rack or a scroll, I can't really play it. Funeral Charm, almost there, and we can kind of piece together a big turn with the Charm and the Cabal Therapy all together maybe. But for now, just hold on to it and wait. They tick up the keg and play a Seafloor Debris. I can't imagine that card is a good card, but I don't know. Opponent seems to have been doing a lot of work in this deck. We draw a creature, so we play a creature. They counter it. They say go without doing anything. We say go without doing anything. They're hitting some land drops. They've kind of got 4 cards floating around their hand, and we draw another swamp. They do land go. Draw another swamp. Say go. They cast a blessing. They put a few good cards back in their deck and cantrip. Seems reasonable. We draw duress. So now maybe we can kind of put something together. But the problem is if they have a counter spell, like if they counter our duress, then we have a blind hand for therapy. It's just not great. I want to save it for something big. Unfortunately, they've been saving for something big too. Cycled a Decree of Justice. Both our Plague Spitters are in the graveyard. We do have 1 Engineered Plague left, so kind of drawing to that. And with our hand, we can probably get it to resolve too. Well, they attack us down to 7. Another swamp. We are running out of time to find this Engineered Plague. They attack us down to 2. Oh wait, first, an impulse. They finally disenchant my rack at 6 cards in their hand. Factory might have been relevant before. Probably not anyways. I'll bring in extra plague for round 3. But mostly, let's just try to make sure that doesn't happen again. Okay, this hand has everything. It's got the turn 1 that they can't counter. We have the duress to clear the way for the bottomless pit. Duress finds, unfortunately, a hand with 2 counterspells, so don't have such a clear path. So considering that, do I take a counterspell or a fact or fiction? I think those are the 2 big choices. I do decide to take a counterspell. I'm hoping we can get this game somewhere where either we have a lot of pressure or we get another discard spell or something else to keep them off the fact or fiction. Play the rat, which they let resolve, and because I'm kind of planning on playing the bottomless pit next turn anyways, I just run out the rack. Hopefully they don't find the powder keg again. I'm also more likely to be able to use my curse scroll. So here I decide not to play the pit because I know they have a counterspell. I could top deck a duress or something to force it through, or next turn they'll have the 4 mana to play fact or fiction. So next turn would be a better time to play bottomless pit because then they can't fact or fiction. Depends what I draw, but because it's just a factory, I decide here's the bottomless pit. Here's where they put the counterspell. I attack with the rats. So next turn, they can fact or fiction again. True. Unless I draw another spell, which is a must counter. But I have scroll, rats, and factory on the board, and hopefully these 2 racks will become relevant. Okay, we draw another bottomless pit, which is pretty good draw because they don't have a counterspell now. Well, I mean, they have 2 unknown cards and they did just impulse, so they very well could have a counterspell, but I'm just hoping they won't. And they factor fiction, so this is looking good. And there's no counterspell in the pile. Well, they only have 1 mana anyways, so It would have to be a null. So I'm just trying to think of which of these two piles is, and because we are kind of relying on the pit, I just put disenchant in one pile, especially because we don't care about the other cards anyways. They do take him, so I'm thinking this sounds good. I'm activating the Mishra's Factory now. There's no difference, but one of their remaining mystery cards was a null, so I kind of gave them 4 cards for nothing, maybe you could say, but still, it's just a pile of lands, and the disenchant is very relevant, so it's not the worst thing in the world. I could activate Factory here, but I decided it's better to activate Curse Scroll. Either way, it's 2 damage, but the Factory is removable, and the Curse Scroll is not. I guess this plays into, like, not misdirection, miscalculation a little bit, but I don't think they play many of those. And they have another Fact or Fiction. This game is, looking difficult to win. They're getting so much card advantage. But on the other hand, like, so far, I don't know, none of these cards do anything. They take a pile with 2 lands and an impulse. Okay, and now they can impulse. But they're at 8. And they have a lot of cards in their hands, so these racks aren't doing anything. But they have to deal with a lot of board presence. And they have to deal with this Curse Scroll. And so far, they haven't shown that they're able to do any of that. A third copy of the rack, not great, not what we want. But we activate Factory and apply the pressure. Opponent has some answers that we know about. They can Dust Bowl the Factory. They can use this Fire Ice that they've been sitting on. And so they go from 8 to 7. And now we got a Curse Scroll. Hopefully we can finish up the game with that. Oh no, they found the Powder Keg just in time for them to. They have a Furnace that kind of goes down to 4 cards in hand, but virtually 5. End of turn, we take them down to 5 life. And we're going to go all the way down to 3 on the upkeep. My logic is this Curse Scroll is going to be gone next turn. Whatever I draw, I'll still have in my hand next turn. So even if it's a threat or a pox or something, I can just play it next turn. I want to get in that guaranteed damage while I can. It's a good play too, because I would have to play out the rack to keep the therapy in my hand, and that's just going to die to Powder Keg, or I would have to blind name therapy now when I don't want to. I'd rather make sure it hits something later, or at least use it to check for like a counterspell. They have the third Fact or Fiction of the game. Not welcome, but on the other hand, see, again, these cards, they don't do anything. It's a bunch of lands. It's a Teferi's Response, so I'll just have to make sure I don't play into that. The Swords obviously clears the rat, so it seems like they might be interested in that, but I don't want to get lured into another 1 for 4 pile. So I just put it like that. I take a screenshot to make sure I don't forget the cards, because I'm going to have to name one with Cabal Therapy. So I know they have a Teferi's Response in their hand, for example. They put the Teferi's Response and 2 lands in their hand. So they don't take the Swords, so they must have something else for the rat. Opponent's back to 6 and then 7 cards in their hand. Powder Keg goes up. They can draw a card with the Furnace anytime they want. So they're at 2 life though. So this is the thing with Pox. You just gotta get over the finish line. Yeah, they draw a card and then they pop the keg, play a land. They're at 2 life, but they have 7 cards in their hand. We draw a scroll. That's pretty good when they're at 2 life. And I do know a bit about their hand. I knew they just put Teferi's Response and a bunch of other stuff I don't care about. So here I'm going to Therapy. If they let it resolve, I might name Teferi's Response. But instead they kill my creature first, so I can't flash it back. So now I'm going to name some kind of counterspell. After checking their graveyard, I think they only have 1 actual factual counterspell in there. So I named that. They don't have a counterspell in their hand. So play the Curse Scroll. And they have 1 turn to try to find an answer. They can draw a card with the ice, but Curse Scroll resolves. That's step 1. So as long as they can't find a disenchant, we should be okay. Considering playing the rack here, but just keep it. And they do find a disenchant. It's a 6 mana disenchant, but it works. They played none of the cards in the revealed zone. Okay, well, again, I know they don't have a counterspell or swords, so play it. And I could even sacrifice it to therapy right now for 1 damage, but 1 damage isn't 2, so I wait. And I play out the rack. They did find a swords, so Plague Spitter's gone. Didn't even get my 1 damage, but that's okay. I think flashing it back to Cabal Therapy was definitely not the right play, no matter what. So now they're at 2 life, and just hoping to draw something that's not a swamp. So far, no good. Trying to make sure we keep good track of their hand. Okay, Furnace. I'm just going to draw a card right now. Nope, another swamp. Okay, Cursed Scroll again. And again, if it resolves, we win. We know 2 of their 5 cards in hand. I'm going to risk it. Maybe they drew a counterspell. Ah, they did. And Absorb as well, the worst one. So now they're not even at 2 life anymore. But I don't know. Waiting is no guarantee either. You don't know when you're going to draw Duress. If my logic is if I have Duress, I'll absolutely save it for the right play, right time. But if I don't have Duress, I'm just going to be jamming spells as I draw them. So they had a counterspell for the scroll. Do they have one for the pox? Now we're getting closer. Opponent has something. Ah, it is a counterspell. Alright, well, they have 3 cards left in their hand, and we know 2 of them. So can't be that good for them. And now I draw the Duress. Well, like I said, they have 4 cards in their hand. Now they're up to 5, so I'm definitely going to hold on to this Duress for, when I have something I need to resolve. I find a Slice and Dice. They're just going to cycle that. That's pretty good for me, I think, because Ravenous Rats is probably one of the better things I can top deck. And they're down below 5 minutes on clock as well. They cycle the Blessing, but they put 3 Factor Fictions back in their library, and they only have 17 cards left. So seems like they might be able to find one. Now this is action. I found the Pox. So now we Duress. They have a Decree of Justice. Okay. They're spending all their mana on it, so I guess they don't have much. But here's the thing. We have the swords. So now they only have 3 cards left. We can Pox. That'll put them down to 2 cards. And mop up a third of these creature tokens too. What's a third times 6? We'll find out. They make a pretty big misplay here actually. They discard the Shivan Reef. The reason, well, you'll see. I'm going to win the game because of that. Alright, they're left on 3 life, 2 cards in hand, so soon to be 2 life, and 4 soldier tokens, and, a majority of their land. They find Impulse, which seems pretty good because I know they have 3 Factor Fictions in their library, so they attack, but we draw Duress. They found a counterspell, so we still know about this Teferi's Response, and now they have 2 cards in their hand again, so they take 1, they go to 1. Now they can't play anything, unless it's Factor Fiction, I suppose. We find Skittering Scourge. That is a fine card to have. They've got 3 cards in their hands, they can't counter it. And here, they're at 1 life, and we can therapy them. We know about Teferi's Response, so we can take the response, and that'll put them at 2 cards in their hand, and then that's the game. There we go, and they even had the swords for the Spectre if we had waited. I suppose that play does lose pretty hard to Factor Fiction, but we put ourselves in a spot where we could win. Opponent says GG's, on to match 3. Round 3. No lands, so let's mulligan. 1 land, better than no lands, and look at that. If you put back the Pox, they're all 1 mana spells. I think that's better than going to 5. And we're on the draw anyways, so let's draw some good cards. Ancient Tomb. That's scary. Okay, so this is some kind of big mana deck. Well, oh, here we go. We got Duress. Let's figure it out. Okay, so it's Wildfire deck. Wildfire's scary, but when you're on 1 permanent, I think you're most scared of Smokestack. And they can literally play Smokestack next turn, so they can play Tanglewire too, but we can just wait that out. It's also kind of funny, like, I think they don't play Tanglewire here because we only have one land, so you're not really getting your money's worth there, are you? And kind of same thing with Wildfire. Would they really Wildfire me off one land? Well, they do play the Tanglewire, so we'll see about the Wildfire. They only have 3 cards left in their hand, and I'm tapping my land anyways, so this seems like a great spot to Funeral Charm. They discard the Mountain, so they're hanging on to that Wildfire. Kind of surprised. We drew a land, that's great, and we can put the rack down, and the rack's already working, so I think this is a fine spot. As long as they don't Wildfire like this turn. Oh, well, they've got to tap their own things to Tanglewire, so of course they can't Wildfire right this yet. Yeah, I'm going to do the same Funeral Charm play again, because otherwise I got to tap all my permanents anyways. This time they do discard the Wildfire, keeping 1 card. I wonder what it is. Alright, well, I keep drawing land. That's reasonable. Can't imagine they use their graveyard, but suppose you might as well. I haven't played against a Wildfire deck in a while. Alright, they gotta tap 2 things. So they have 4 mana and 2 cards in hand. But their life total is getting lower, and they are kind of relying on this Ancient Tomb. Well, they play a Thran Dynamo, so whatever card they have left in their hand, it must be a big one. We can just tap our artifacts. That's fine. Hey, they have 1 card. This is a great game for Funeral Charm. Very happy we found out 4. Surprisingly, their last card was Fire Diamond. I don't know why they discarded the Wildfire. But we can attack with Factory. They're taking 3 from the rack. They have an Ancient Tomb in play, so we're in a very good spot here. Though I suppose this is the deck of big splashy plays, so see. We can't really attack because it gets you. We could throw our Factory into the dirt just to Innocent Blood it away, but that doesn't seem very good. But here's the Scourge. So, I mean, these are kind of the new additions to the deck. Funeral Charm and Skittering Scourge. So this is the turn where they gotta make something happen. Oh, they can sack the Mind Stone to draw a card. So they're at 3 cards, so they can survive 1 more turn, but they concede. I'm trying to find something for the 2 Plague Spitters. I decided to side out 2 Innocent Bloods. I know they have dragons, Covetous Dragon, but we do have 2 other Bloods and 4 or 3 Poxes, so. Alright, we keep a hand. 2 Swamps, Wasteland seems relevant. Play the rack, and then just start playing rats. This seems like a deck that's not going to be great at keeping its hand full. They kind of want to accelerate into big spells. So they play a Temporal Aperture, sure. And we discard a Helix. Also seems not relevant, at least not for a long time. They have a City of Traders into a Winter Orb. Well, okay. That's not so bad for us. We draw another rack. Okay, they'll be at 2 cards, so if not for the orb, we could have played another rack. But next turn, we can still play the rack and the Funeral Charm, so that's fine. But opponent found something big here. It is the dragon, so we're going to have to Pox that. We draw a Swamp. That makes the Poxing come a little faster, and we can actually afford, even with this play, we can still Pox next turn. So we can afford to play another rack. They only have 1 card in their hand. Oh, and I decided just to erase it. With 2 racks in play, and they have 0 cards in their hand, that seems fine. They're going to take 6 and go to 12. Can they even attack here? Because then they might have to be blocking my rats. So I think this gives me enough time. I can take 1 turn off Pox. Like I can go from 6 to 14. It's no big deal. If they have a spell in their hand, Duress literally wins the game, but I don't risk it. If I just wait 1 more turn, I can Pox, and opponent is going to skip their combat here to block the rats. So if I just play Pox, well, I think Pox would have won the game just fine, but I decided to Duress because with Cabal Therapy, even if they have a creature, as long as they have 1 non-land card, it's pretty good. And again, I can just Pox next turn. Now they're at 2, and they're actually just dead. Like if I just say go, they lose. So of course I can also Pox or therapy them or attack them with the rats. I have lots of options. Good match. All right, we're on a roll here. 3-0, going in to match 4. Pretty reasonable hand with lands and spells. We're gonna have to draw a land at some point, but I think that's why we put 24 of them in our deck. We're against Sly. Sly is a good matchup. Bread and butter kind of situation here. I'm gonna go for the turn 1 Duress. I'm worried about like a Pyrostatic Pillar or something I won't be able to deal with in the long term, and taking 1 extra damage off Mog Fanatic doesn't seem like a huge deal. Yeah, opponent just has some pretty basic stuff. I'm thinking about taking the Pyroblast or just not taking the Pyroblast, but I think since they have 3 lands and they're going to have 2 mountains, I think take the Pyroblast now. The logic behind not taking it now is if you think we can get it later, or you think they're going to discard the rats or something, but I don't think so. So they have the second mountain, they Flame Rift us, and attack. We'll start with the therapy, make sure everything's where we left it, and go for the blood. Funeral Charm kills every creature they might possibly have, so there's no reason. Like it's just like Innocent Blood, but better. So maybe we'll get a Ball Lightning with it, or maybe we can have them discard a card at an opportune time. Okay, we find the third land. We're starting to stabilize here. This is pretty good. We know their hand is Incinerate. See if they discard the Incinerate or discard something else. They discard Mountain, so their hand is Incinerate. But they have the mana to cast it, so nothing we can do about that. Let's just play the Curse Scroll. So we're at 14, we're at 11. They have threshold already for the land, put us to 9, so we just have to try to win before that. Skittering Scourge is a pretty good tool for winning, but you can see we can't. We need a little more black mana to be able to do 2 things at once. Unfortunate, but I think playing the Scourge here is the best bet. We need to get our hand empty anyways for the scroll to work. They have Shock, which is a little shocking, but finally they draw a land, so that's nice. Can attack with the factory. They can Barbarian Ring it, but then that's 2 damage we avoided to our face, so I think that's reasonable. And they do go for the ring, so 13 to 11. We get them to 12. They fetch, they go to, they fetch, they go to 11, so kind of a tie game here. We have Furnace, too late to keep them off of Threshold, I think, but we're going to look to cycling that later. We draw our third land again, which is good, because we're going to be doing scroll stuff. We'll draw a card first, find a rats. We'll play the rats. They have no cards in their hand, but we just need another 1/1 creature is fine here. Now we can attack for 2 every turn, so as long as they draw less than 2 points of damage on average per turn, we should be fine. Every creature is a dead draw, every land's a dead draw, so we just are trying to fade the lightning bolts and the fire blasts and the flame rifts. They might be playing ball lightning, so you could try to keep, I don't know, some mana open for this funeral charm. Well, we're going to funeral charm them now. Hopefully they don't have 2 spells they can cast in response, but we need to get our hand down for Curse Scroll, so we have to just go for it. Curse Scroll can handle any creature, so. Alright, they have 1 Fire Blast. This is getting scary. But their second card is a land, and is a good one too, so that's awesome. And now they're on 2 lands, so this Pox is kind of reasonable. It could take them off a lot of the spells they could cast. No more Fire Blast, no more Flame Rifts, that sort of thing. But it might just be better to scroll them out and rat them out. Let's see which path we take. Yeah, I decided just to use the Curse Scroll. Again, I have Funeral Charm. So I have the pause set on my draw step, but opponent drew a card and conceded. So that's fine. I mean, this was the last draw that they had, because I can end step scroll them, upkeep scroll them. So that's game 1. Versus Sly, I like to bring in the Spitters and the Plagues, because all their creatures have 1 toughness, and obviously that's what the bottle gnomes are for. Take out the Furnaces, the Bottomless Pits are, I mean, it still kind of works, but it's just not great. And Pox, you don't, yeah. I mean, Pox is okay sometimes, but we can go down one of those as well. All right, this hand is a delightful mix. We have the artifacts we like. We have the Funeral Charm for the first creature. So this is fine. All right, we're just going to go and get that Fanatic off the board. They forget to sack it for damage. And they're out of creatures already, which is good, because we're out of removal. We draw Wasteland. I suppose they wouldn't play the Barbarian Ring if they had other lands, right? So maybe they're stuck on 1 mana. They can't cast anything. But they have an even better land, maybe, the Factory. Well, might as well Therapy them. Name the Fire Blast. We miss. Ooh, Sulfuric Vortex. So I could have Flashback Therapy right now, sacking the Factory, but I don't think that's a winning play. This game is going to be very close. They're at 10 life. They already have less life than us. Are they going to really play the Vortex now? And they'd have to take a point of damage off their own Barbarian Ring as well. And that would put them under the rack. So I'm thinking, actually, not that big of a deal if they play Vortex. But I think they played it smart. They just attacked with the Factory. And I know they have a Shock in their hand, so it makes attacking with my Factory not great. So I'm just going to play this Plague Spitter. It's clogging up our hand. We really want to get this Curse Scroll active. Plague Spitter dies the Shock 2, but I'll get a card out of their hand. That's 2 damage that's not going to my face, and they'll start taking damage from the rack. So they don't shock at end of turn, so they are safe from the rack for now. But they shock it now, main phase. So the blocker's gone. They take a point of damage to activate their own Factory. So now it's 8-7, and it's still quite difficult for them to play this Vortex. But they still have 3 cards in their hand. But I draw Duress. So now, I'm still not going to take the Vortex here. I'm going to take the Shock, because it's the most, it actually does something. Now they're going to go down to 7 from the rack. So do I play another rack, or attack with the Factory? I'm actually in the tank a while on this one. I'm really trying to do the math all the way to the end of the game. Like, I want to get the scroll active, maybe. Is that going to be relevant? If so, I should play the rack. But maybe the rack only deals like 1 extra damage this turn, where a Factory would deal 2 damage, and that might be the whole ball game. So I attack with Factory. I also consider sacking it to Therapy. Like, I could also activate Factory, sack it to Therapy, and then play the other rack, so they would take 4 damage. I don't know. I'm still not quite sure if there's a better play than what I came up with. But I attacked, and they attack, and now we're kind of in the same spot. I just need something a little extra to get me over the finish line here. Because at the very last turn of the game, they might play Sulfuric Vortex, and then I lose my upkeep unless I have 1 card in my hand, and then I can respond to the trigger with Curse Scroll. I'm just looking for that little bit of extra, because this game is getting very close. So now we're both at 5. I draw Innocent Blood. Doesn't do anything except helps scroll hit. And there's just so many variables here. They have the Factory, they have the Barbarian Ring, and they have the Sulfuric Vortex. All these things deal me damage, but can also deal them damage. I can attack with the Factory. I could leave up Curse Scroll. I could scroll their Factory. I could scroll their face. I could play the rack and attack with the Factory and hope to draw like a discard spell next turn. I'm not sure what the answer is. Even looking back now, I can't think of a better play. So if you see one, please let me know in the comments or on Discord or wherever. I go for the just pass the turn with Curse Scroll up. I also have Factory up for blocker, and they might not think that I can. They probably don't assume I have a 2/3 chance to flip the scroll. So they have a mountain. This lets them activate both the Factory and the Barbarian Ring, but they also pass. So that's probably good for me. I'm just gonna Curse Scroll them. I hit, which is is necessary for us to win this game. So we have to get a little bit lucky here. I can try to do it again in my upkeep, but that would only put them to 1, and then, yeah, that would certainly be dead. So I draw Scourge, and I decide to make a move here. I'm afraid this game is taking too long. I need to get my hand empty for this Curse Scroll. My fear is that as soon as they draw a Lightning Bolt, I lose. So just passing and doing nothing is no good. So, in that light, I'm thinking I'm losing. I got 2 damage coming somewhere from Barbarian Ring. Maybe the Scourge, or maybe not. But if I play the Scourge, sacrifice it immediately to Cabal Therapy, that'll put them at 1, and then they have exactly 1 draw to kill me. And when I untap and my upkeep is, I can get them with the scroll, guaranteed. So I'm thinking acting now and giving them the 1 draw is better than just waiting, because if they draw any burn spell, I'm just dead. So I therapy them and take the Vortex. Unfortunately, it doesn't work because my opponent has a Monk Fanatic just right there in their hand, and they only need 1 extra point of damage. So they kind of already had the burn spell. I wasn't really thinking about a Monk Fanatic when I made that play, so maybe it was just wrong. I don't know. It was a tight spot, and I think I had to make a choice. But again, please let me know if there's a better way to play that, especially if I missed something obvious, because I'm not seeing it now. All right, game 3. We keep the sideboard the same. We have 2 Bottle Gnomes in our hand, so this could be very good. We have 3 3-drops and only 2 lands, so we're going to have to draw land, but otherwise, this hand's looking great. We have the Funeral Charm for an early Jackal Pup or whatever. We have Curse Scroll, one of our better cards in the matchup. Opponent is a little confused how they won in the chat, so, tight game. Turn 1, Curse Scroll, go. Lovely way to start the game. Opponent agrees. We draw the 3rd land. That's great. And because I have the 3rd land, I'm also interested in casting Engineer Plague next turn on whatever creature they might play, so I'm happy to play the Funeral Charm now. Sometimes you play an early Funeral Charm, they don't know what they're going to need late game, so they discard the wrong thing. Discard a land, and then they never draw another land, or, the opposite. So even though they have 5 cards in their hand, just fire it off. They discard an Earthquake. I don't know, is that a thing they play? Seems non-standard. Alright, they have a Factory and a Mog Fanatic. We draw another 3-drop. Not ideal. I kind of want to get this hand empty so we can start scrolling, but, it's a fine card, and if they remove it, it takes out the Mog Fanatic with them. I don't think they know what it does, because they sacked the Mog Fanatic in response. They crack Bloodstained Mire into Sulfuric Vortex. Okay, the race is on. They're definitely losing the race currently. Too bad these Bottle Gnomes, well, I can't get any life. Draw land. So here, I really want to be attacking with my Plague Spitter, and I don't really want to get attacked back with the Factory. And I'm thinking the Bottle Gnomes will at least be good blockers versus any other future creatures, so I actually name Assembly Worker with the Plague. And this game is, the life totals are going down fast. We got Plague Spitter and Vortex. An opponent passes. Okay, here's 3 more damage my way. And they've got 2 cards in their hand, but they're activating Scroll. They name Barbarian Ring, and they reveal Barbarian Ring. Okay, we draw our own Factory, which is a little sus with the Engineer Plague, but I figure it's better to play Bottle Gnomes than just wait for Scroll. This at least get some damage going. And they play the Barbarian Ring that we knew about. And this time I'm going to activate Scroll. Activated my upkeep, so in case I draw a different 3-drop or something. And that's exactly what happens. Their Factory is a 1/1, but it can be a 2/2, so attacking with Bottle Gnomes doesn't seem like it accomplishes much. They don't have Threshold now, but they're very close. They still have 2 cards in their hand for the Scroll. They name Barbarian Ring again, and they have another one. Alright, they got a 5. Obviously, we have Curse Scroll. They don't know about the Pox in our hand. If we draw another land, we can do both. They have another Wood of Foothills. I mean, they're at 5, so cracking these fetches will not be simple for them. But it's also a good way to turn on Threshold, and they have one Barbarian Ring in play and another one in their hand. So this game's going to end. We draw Wasteland, and again, this is a another very close scenario where I'm sure there's a good play to do here. I could waste their factory so that I can attack better. I can waste their Barbarian Ring because they don't have Threshold now, but they might just get Threshold in response if they just play one spell and sacrifice their 2 Foothills. But that would put them to 3, and where are they going to fire off that Barbarian Ring? And right now I have 6 mana, so I could, for example, play Pox and activate Curse Scroll. If I activate Wasteland, then I can't do that. In the end, I decide to Wasteland the Barbarian Ring now, while they don't have Threshold, because I figure if they crack their fetches and play a spell to get Threshold, that'll give me new information, and I think from that new low point of life 3, I can figure out how to win with Pox or Curse Scroll. Alright, they're at 5 now. They're going to go to 3 in their upkeep, but then they could also respond and Curse Scroll me in their upkeep if it's the last 2 damage. But I attack with these. Again, I'm kind of thinking they can't activate Factory and block and activate Curse Scroll unless they crack their fetches. So opponent decides to Curse Scroll, and that's good. I think this is all I need. I just needed opponent to go down just a little bit more. Because if they take the Bottle Gnomes, they go to 4, Pox will put them at 2. And I know one of their cards is Barbarian Ring. I mean, obviously, if they had Fire Blast, they could still win, but if they had Fire Blast, they would have already won the game. So I think we're good here. I'm actually assuming that their hand is two Barbarian Rings. Actually, they had a Flame Rift in their hand, I don't know, the whole time, at least this turn. So they got a little lucky in the Curse Scroll. And that's good enough for the match. All right, ready for round 5. 4-0. This is very exciting. Like I said, I wasn't, I was gonna be happy with this, whatever it is, but now it could really be a 5-0. Pretty decent Pox hand. Happy to keep this. Some flexibility. We can hopefully get this Skittering Scourge going. Brushland. I'm hoping this is the Terravore deck again. Because I drew the rats, I'm going to play that before Skittering Scourge. So I can play the Factory turn 1 just to disguise a little bit what I'm up to. I guess the Rack makes it pretty obvious, but also to bluff that I'm going to attack the Factory. But unfortunately, it's Enchantress. Enchantress is a deck that I'm not really designing this deck to beat. I don't think there's a lot of good sideboard options, and once their engine gets going, there's very little we can do to keep up with it. Some other draws, just the creature removal doesn't line up, or the discard is too anemic. We can't really beat the lock pieces they have, so it's definitely not a good matchup for us. I've won it before, and we're gonna win this one, but definitely not what you're looking for in the round 5 playing for the 5-0. But they start with a pretty slow start. Miri's Guile, like a worst Sylvan Library. They're losing a lot of life to their own land. Alright, looks like they kept the hand without any Enchantress, but they have the Grove to search for the presence, so I don't know, we're just trying to apply as much pressure as we can and try to stay ahead of it. They only got 3 cards in their hand. If we had another black mana, I would have played Funeral Charm there instead of putting out the Curse Scroll, but it's what it is. They don't sacrifice the Grove, end step, or upkeep, so I guess they have something in their hand that they're interested in playing this turn. Well, they found the presence naturally, and then they have the Serra Sanctum, so So this is where it starts to look bad, and they even have the Seal of Cleansing for the rack, and the swords for my creature. Okay, well, I forget which games I won, but it doesn't look like it's going to be this one. Another Scourge is okay. I can attack with the Factory here and play the Scourge. They have a Seal of Cleansing, but I assume they're going to have to target the rack with that. Alright, well, we do activate the Factory, and they blow it up instead of our rack, which is surprising. Oh, I saved the Wasteland for Sarah's Sanctum. That's why I don't play the Scourge this turn. I think that's pretty reasonable because this also lets me play Funeral Charm. They only have one card in their hand, so if they're counting on it, it's gone. If I was hoping they could, they would Mirror's Guile first, and then I can have them discard the card, but that's not how it works. It was a pretty good card. Now, they found another Sanctum, but obviously they have nothing to play, and so they just play that and say go. That's pretty good news for the rack. I'm gonna need another land, but first I can play the Scourge. I'm attacking with Rats. Next turn I'll attack with Scourge. The rack is dealing 3 damage. Of course, if they just get an enchantment, and then they can draw lots of cards. So if they were at a much lower life total, I'd say we're winning, but at this point, probably not. Well, they find another Parallax Wave with the Sterling Grove. Yeah, I can see that. Draws them a card and removes all my creatures. But they put it second down with the Guile. That's fine. Now they have one card in their hand, and they say go. Well, we drew a Duress, so we're going to play a Duress. Hopefully something we can take, and it is pretty decent Opalescence. Alright, we can attack, but of course, the wave. Alright, it's getting closer. They're down to 5, and we do have a Scroll Rack in play. If we just draw a land, we can activate that every turn. Unfortunately, they found one of their better enchantments, and it even draws them a card. Now, I have another seal for my rack, so we're going to have to do this the hard way. Still, they got 0 cards in their hand, and we did draw the land. It's supposed to take us 3 turns here. Or, I should say, 3 activations of a Curse Scroll. Yeah, opponent seals the rack. Opponent looks at their top 3 cards. Opponent draws a card. And then opponent does something very curious. Activates their Windswept Heath. This puts them to 4. So they're dead on my upkeep, and they shuffled their library, so they're drawing a random card. It's a very high risk scenario. Well, they say go. We deal them 2 damage, untap, deal them 2 more. Oh, can't believe we got away with that one. But an excellent way to start the match. Well, like I was trying to say before, we don't have too much for this matchup. I mean, we have Dystopia. Dystopia is great sometimes. I mean, I'm certainly going to side it in, but it's kind of slow, you know? If they have, 6 green and white enchantments out, it's not going to do much. And there's really nothing else for a mono black deck. There's Gloom, but Gloom is even worse than Dystopia, and without Dark Ritual, it just doesn't do much. Their important spells, especially in the early game, are the green ones. So I can't imagine winning games because you played Gloom on turn 3. I'm comfortable just calling this a bad matchup, and it's really not that bad. It's probably like, I don't know, 30-70 or something like that. So I'll take it. We win 30% of the time. That's good enough for me. And it's certainly good enough today. Our first hand, we had to mulligan. This is a great hand. Problem is, it's got 7 good cards. Which one you put back? Situations like these, I usually put back the land. I want to have a velocity of spells, and you tend to flood out late game. So I'm comfortable trusting my deck to give me a land, and if it takes an extra turn or 2 to give it to me, usually that's not the end of the world. Turn 1 Guile, again, still, I don't think it's a very good... This is clearly the worst card in Enchantress, right? Like, it's even worse than Sylvan Library. It doesn't do anything. We'll take the Wild Growth. Slows them down a little bit. and the Opalescence doesn't seem too scary at the moment. I'm probably going to therapy it before it can do much. Well, they drew a Plains. Here's Dystopia. Okay. Well, if this is going to be a slow game where they only have like one permanent in play, then could be good. Although it is a non-land and a 3-drop at that, I got to start playing some of these spells. So I let them discard a card. I'm doing this one first. Yeah, it makes sense to do this one first. I'm sure they'll discard the swords, but if they did discard the Opalescence, I could always therapy the swords. Because they can't cast Opalescence this turn, I suppose if they drew Wild Growth, they might be able to. Yeah, but otherwise, I can just therapy it next turn, was my thinking. Let them have an extra draw step so I can see more of their hand when I do it. The downside is if I draw a land, then I can't do both. I didn't draw a land, but I did draw a spell I would like to cast. But now I got to think about whether casting that or therapying the Opalescence. I decided just to cast it. I mean, Opalescence doesn't do anything much, and it also makes their creatures, or their enchantments susceptible to Innocent Blood, which is kind of interesting. I don't even know if they would play it just in the blind like this. Interesting, they played a fetch land, but they didn't use it. I don't know. I guess they like what's on top, but they haven't been playing anything, so. Okay. They found a Parallax Wave. So that's quite good with Opalescence. So I was hoping to draw. Well, even a swamp there would be a little bit too late, I think, so. Anyways, I'm definitely happy to therapy this Opalescence out now. They found Sterling Grove. That's fine. Finally get my 3rd land. Now's a great time for Dystopia, but actually, it's going to be a little bit too late here. So this can find Opalescence. Opalescence turns on my Dystopia, and then Parallax Wave can exile my Dystopia, and then Parallax Wave can do the Parallax Wave Opalescence thing. So a little bit behind here, but the Innocent Blood can break that up next turn. So this is kind of a one-time thing. And the Dystopia got rid of the Guile. That's nice. They attack. I should block, actually. It just saves me some life. Because this Dystopia is just gone. Well, I forced the issue by attacking. But yeah, they know the trick. They exile their own thing. It comes back. Now it's got 5 counters on it. Now they can exile all my creatures and exile itself. So because it leaves first, my creatures never come back. But now it's it's an immediate blink. So now Innocent Blood gets it off the table, and all they have is Opalescence and 0 cards in their hand. They have a Sterling Grove, which is pretty good because they can get any enchantment they want. They can get another Parallax Wave, and they're back in business. So I'm gonna play the Rack because at least the Rack is not a creature. Because I figure any creature I will just immediately lose. They play Solitary Confinement here. I'm not quite sure that's a great play. It does save them 3 damage from the Rack, technically, but they have to sacrifice it immediately, so I'm not quite sure if that's the right thing to do. Well, I got spells, so I'm gonna play them. There's not much else I can do. They activate Grove. They find the Parallax Wave. That'll tie up my creature. Here it goes, doing its exile dance. But I do have a Rack in play, and a Duress, Rats, and Pit in hand. The Pit doesn't do anything. Ah, there you go. Pox does. Pox will clear the wave, and clear a third of my opponent's life total. Alright, opponent thought they were at 15, but actually they're at 10, and when they untap, they'll be at 7, so they're going to have to find a Seal of Cleansing pretty soon. And they've got no card draw or card selection, just going off the top. They also have to sacrifice 2 lands, so they'll be just on 2 mana. A lot of spells they won't be able to play. Alright, opponent untaps, goes to 7, passes the turn, trying to keep some cards in their hand, I bet. Well, that's what Rats is for. They discarded the land that time. Next turn I'll have to do Duress. Ah, they found the Seal of Cleansing. just in time. I can't even attack with my rats this turn. That's rough. But there are 4, so just need 4 turns with the rats. Come on, rats. Alright, they have a land. Oh, another rat. That's pretty good, because now they're going to need 2 pieces of removal, or 2 blockers. And Parallax Wave is their best one, but they don't have enough mana to even cast it. They don't even have double white to cast it now. And look at that. Isn't that the best draw possible? Time Walk mode. Put a stop in the draw step, and besides Swords of Plowshares, whatever they have, just go straight to the yard. They're 1 life, so even if they drew something that could have turned it around, that is the match. And that's 2-0, and that's 5-0. So I am thrilled. What a great result. A very good showing for Funeral Charm. Well, that's the league. Thank you for watching. Very excited to get another 5-0, but don't expect it every week. The deck's performing great. I'm very happy with the 4 Funeral Charms. I'm going to keep going with this, maybe make a minor tweak to the main deck, and I'm going to work on the sideboard for next week. That's my next plan. Make a sideboard map. Get this all worked out and kind of really find our place in the meta. Subscribe if you like it. New video every Friday, and keep poxing.